Hey guys, and good morning from Raleigh. Hope wherever you are, you have coffee or whatever you like to drink going. We're going to look at potential pro se whack job here. Talk a little bit about mental state and the importance of that in criminal prosecutions. So let's back it up. You obviously, at the time of the crime, you might claim that you were insane, and in most states, that's a potential defense or a way to avoid criminal liability. So I wasn't able to understand the wrongfulness of what I was doing because of this mental issue that I had going on. That's insanity at the time of the crime. You might also argue I had diminished capacity. I wasn't insane, but I also couldn't form the legal intent required for this crime, the level of crime that you've charged me with. And then at the time of trial, you might be incompetent to stand trial. So whether you were crazy then or not, at this point, you're unable to meaningfully participate in your trial. That could cause a trial to be delayed. In some cases, may not even have a trial. So it's really important, right? But now we're going to take it to the niche area of I want to represent myself. So under the Constitution, as interpreted by the Supreme Court, you have a right to represent yourself. So there can't be a bar exam like, well, I have to, you have to know all the rules of evidence before you can do it. You have to take this test before you do it of what the law is. They can't do that. But on the other hand, there's a slightly elevated test they can put you through or standard they can hold you to that's more than just competence to stand trial. Because if you're not competent to stand trial, you're not competent to represent yourself. So the main hurdle is, are you competent to stand trial? And then they can talk to you and make sure you understand the consequences of what's going on. Is that something you can comprehend? They can't make sure that you know all the basis for objections that you might lodge and things like that. You may miss defenses and such. But what they're trying to do is figure out, do you understand what is happening here? And that's only slightly higher standard to hold you to than just competence to stand trial. So anyway, we've got one coming down the line here, and let's get it moving with who are we talking about? What who's the person here? That ought to be simple and easy to figure out, right? Let's see if we can make that magic happen. He's in a good mood.
Dejaune Anderson. Ms. Anderson, for the record, would you state your full name, please?
Yes, I am Princess Califia Hatan Tupac II, representing the entity Dejaune Anderson.
You're known as Dejaune Anderson?
I'm representing the entity as Dejaune Anderson.
All right, so we're in sovereign idiot territory.
My date of birth is February 2nd, 1961.
Nothing unusual about that.
That would make you how old?
That'll make me 63 years old.
And the last four digits?
Looking good for 63.
I do not have a social security number. I have a declaration of nationality underneath the Washita Moors of the Indigenous People of the United Nations, Chapter 221593.
What's your address?
All right, so that's who we're dealing with here. Another great day to be a court reporter. And another thing that I note is don't play poker against that deputy back there, because he doesn't crack, all right? And as you'll see, he's going to be this stoic throughout our journey to Crazy Town, which is where we're going to be headed unless you get off the train first. So she's starting out with normal kind of sovereign idiot stuff. I'm Princess whatever. I represent this entity, yada, yada. That's not going to disqualify her from representing herself. A lot of people are sovereign idiots. The country is not having a shortage of those right now. So that's okay. So what's weird about this case? Well, trust me, we're just leaving the station. So let's head into the territory of where she wants to represent herself. Let me see if I can get us there, because that's interesting.
The 2.5 years at the Indiana Department of Corrections, with the advisory sentence being 1 year and up to a $10,000 fine. Do you understand what you've been charged with?
I do understand.
Okay. And do you understand the potential penalties?
I do.
Do you intend to hire a lawyer, or is someone likely to hire a lawyer for you?
I want to file a motion for self-representation.
Okay, that was clear and polite.
You understand if you do that, you are required to conduct yourself as a lawyer to be able to board our potential jurors, to abide by the rules of evidence, to abide by the rules of procedure.
I do understand. I have a master's in history.
Excellent.
That doesn't give you a law degree, though.
but I do understand how to read procedures and understand the court procedures.
Right. Just because you represent yourself, doesn't ensure yourself of a good lawyer, you know.
That's a personal opinion, but I understand.
Make your request in writing. Okay.
I will,
Okay.
most definitely.
Mhm.
Can you give me at least just like 5 days and I could get it to
I
you?
can certainly give you 5 days to do that.
That's
I
reasonable.
think what my intention would be. Let me ask you this. Can you afford a lawyer?
Hang on. We're going to
It's not
start a
that I
curveball
can't
here,
afford a lawyer. It's that I want to do self-representation due to, I understand the nature of my case.
which
And
is
I understand that this is my life on the line. And
good point.
I do understand that there are things that involve my case as far as the evidence that I hold, which is Q classified evidence, which should be turned over to Judge Advocate General Courts immediately, if possible. Because my case involves other cases that are open currently with Judge Advocate General Courts, as well as federal investigations that are open.
Her dead son was found in
Well,
a suitcase.
Judge Advocate General approaches us, we'll address it at that point in time.
Okay.
How about I appoint you standby counsel?
Oh, no, thank you.
All right. So the judge has covered some bases there and listened to her request. She's going to put it in writing within 5 days. That's very reasonable, right? So, however, she wants this case transferred over to the Judge Advocate General due to the Q classified evidence involved. I think the theory was that she thought her son was like some ancient demon and he was found murdered in a suitcase. So that's what we're dealing with here. But still, she's polite to the judge. She is listening to him intently. She's responding to what he's saying. She knows she's in court. She knows she's facing these serious charges. She says she's got a significant educational background. It's clear that she knows what he's talking about. But as you can see, you are on the last stop where you can get off before we go find out what Town Square of Crazy Town looks like. So let's head there, because while she's not approved yet to be pro se, she does take the opportunity to act as a lawyer, and we get a taste of what that might be like. And what you're seeing here as I'm scanning forward is the DA talking about the charges, and we get an objection.
Of the utmost importance and should be of an amount that should be very difficult, if not impractical, for her to be able to afford. I feel she will be abscond from this court. She's never been from Indiana. She's not from Washington County, is my understanding. She was located in California. So on that reserve, I would leave that to the court. And if further motion is needed on the state's behalf, I will make that.
Thank you.
Can I make
Ms. Anderson, you just made an objection.
Yes.
State the basis of your objection.
The basis of my objection is the fact that I am not a fugitive. I have been under NSA surveillance for the past 8 months. And how can that qualify me as a fugitive on the
Good
run?
point.
When I've also had a detail from Space Force that was following my every move. When I contacted the Indiana State
Let me
to
tell
arrest
you,
me.
that is not a valid legal objection. If you want to represent yourself, you're going to have to learn the rules of evidence and the rules of procedure, because if you conduct yourself like this and make these types of objections, you have no chance in the world, baby.
Okay.
So objection overruled. But I will let you make argument in regards to bond.
Okay. Well, thank you.
So what is that
So
argument?
that's my argument is that I have been under surveillance by NSA for over 8 months. I also have a detail that follows me everywhere I go from Space Force military. I also contacted Indiana State. I think it was a federal marshal that I called to have my location tracked to pick me up. So there's no type of extent of me running where I need this astronomical bond on my charges.
Well, that's sort of interesting, because it's my understanding Officer Busick has been in touch with almost every one of those agencies, and they haven't been able to identify your location until recently. So I'm going to set your bond at no bond at this particular point in time. If Space Force comes forward and tells me that they're willing to monitor you, we'll take up the issue of bond at a later time.
Okay.
All right. Well, as you can see, she accepts the court's ruling, and he makes the very reasonable proviso that if Space Force were to come forward and offer secure monitoring services, he'd be willing to revisit the bond situation. But for now, he's not going to let her out of court. Not his first rodeo, I think. So, all right, is she just reciting the basic plot of half the Netflix shows right now, or does she actually believe all of this nonsense about Space Force having a detail on her in terms of NSA monitoring her? The crazy part is she says it's for 8 months when they've been monitoring people for a lot longer than that. But her specifically, I doubt it. And Space Force detail, I also doubt that. So the issue here, this judge is going to have to contend with, assuming that she moves forward with this request to self-represent, is she competent to stand trial? She can understand the gravity of what she's facing, right? She knows that she may be going to jail. She knows what she's accused of, and all of that. We haven't heard her total mindset, but let's assume that she's competent to stand trial. Is she competent to represent herself because she has this fantasy about Space Force and all these other things? You can see there's going to be a lot more to her story than just what the facts are or disputing that she did it. This is headed straight into crazy town. So I think this is going to be interesting for this judge, because this isn't, say the Darrell Brooks thing where he was like, nobody can prove I was there. And then also I'm not subject to jurisdiction of this court. She's in a whole different mindset here. She is playing the sovereign idiot card, but she also has the Space Force thing. And I think it's going to be demons and stuff like that. So is that enough of a disruption of her mental process that the judge is going to say, well, okay, you could be sitting here in trial, but I can't let you represent yourself because your reasoning is so nonsensical that when you try to apply your understanding that you're facing trial to what's happening in trial, that's where it breaks down. You're unable to do it because he's already told her that these kind of objections, they're not going to fly in this court. So that's different than just not knowing the law. She didn't not just know the law. She was also citing a bunch of nonsense there, at least it seems to me. So we'll see what this judge does with this, and you keep an eye on it because it's kind of interesting, because it is a case where you have to think about, should this person be allowed to represent themselves or not, when she seems fairly intelligent, but there are a few screws loose. That is for sure. So we'll watch out for that. And thanks to the person who tipped me off to check out this case. And that's it. Hope you have a good weekend. Thanks. Bye.